This is Bedtime Stories, Grownup Edition, The Truth, bonus episode 3, part 2. When we left off, Salema had sent in a team to extract Wise and Mrs. Ali. They were at a Baptiste safe house in the Bronx, and Wise was refusing to leave New York without his sister. Salema knew that Amira was at a clinic, and when she tried to make arrangements for a team to secure her as well, she was informed that was a no-go. There was already a team on Amira, and they had opposite instructions. Those instructions had the backing of the Queen Bee, so she was overruled. Salema hadn't told Wise that, but when she told him that she couldn't help with Amira, he told her that if anything happened to his sister, he'd never forgive her. Salema had no idea what the team that was assigned to Amira was assigned to do, and she certainly did not know that True was in New York. But she knew that absent True or the Queen Mother changing the plans, Amira was a goner. When Amira exited the clinic earlier than expected, she was in visible distress. She'd already called her special before she came out, and within a matter of seconds of her approaching the driveway, the car pulled up. Amira hopped in, and the driver merged into outgoing traffic. He expertly maneuvered through the traffic towards her destination. But based on the time of day and the flow of traffic, his overly aggressive driving was unnecessary. And when he slammed on the gas after a yellow light had clearly turned red, narrowly missing being T-boned, Amira said, "What's the damn rush?" She turned and looked over her shoulder just in time to see the car that had missed T-boning them T-bone another car that attempted to go through that same red light, causing a multi-car pileup in the intersection. Amira said, "Can't none of y'all drive?" Then the special made an unnecessary left turn across 2 lanes of oncoming traffic, narrowly missing being T-boned on the other side. Amira said, "Is there someplace else you need to be?" Then just as quickly as the driver had made that left, the car whipped onto an alley behind some storefronts, screeched to a halt behind a blacked-out van, and both of the back doors flew open. Before Amira had time to get her bearings or even scream, she was looking down the barrel of a .40 caliber, and the man holding it said, "Don't press your luck." Meanwhile, at the Baptiste safe house, Wise is going off. He is refusing to go with the program. All attempts on Salema's part, the soldiers, and the lieutenants to get him and Mrs. Ali to go to the airstrip and head back to Texas have been met with his unequivocal refusal. He told Salema, "I don't know what kind of man you think you married. I can't look my mother in the face and say, we about to get on a plane and head back to Texas and leave Amira here to fend for herself. And if by some chance she actually makes it back to the apartment, what is she gonna think, big gangster?" Salema said, "Wise, I've explained everything to my Aunt Bella. She knows what's at stake, but we're going to have to live with whatever she decides." Wise said, "No, you're going to have to live with whatever she decides." Salema said, "Well, at this point, you're just taking a principled stand that you won't have the power to support. You are not in a position to go up against my family, and I don't think you want to do that. Now, I have tried to understand this from everybody's point of view." Wise said, "No, you haven't. You've understood it from True's point of view." Salema said, "No, I've tried to help you understand where Amira might be coming from, why she would decide to go to the clinic. I tried to help you understand where Wood would be coming from. And now I'm just trying to keep you from making a bad decision. You can be mad at me, but you cannot tie up a Baptiste safe house and teams of soldiers while you wait to see what happens to your sister. And neither that plane or its pilot is going to sit on the tarmac waiting for you to get your mind right. I need you to remember that your sister started this game, and we don't all have to lose just because she is. You tried. You did the best that you could. You warned her more than once before it got this far. You went all the way to New York. You tried to get her to leave with you earlier, and she didn't. You've done your job. Now get on the plane and come home." Wise said, "Tell one of these niggas to take me to the clinic." Salema said, "For what? Your sister's not there." A few hours later, in the basement of Stax's East New York brownstone, True is all caught up. She knows the identities of the men who were trailing Wise, and she's gotten intel from the team who trailed them to their rendezvous point at the Charles safe house. Her men have the house and those soldiers under surveillance. and Uncle Manny has been updated. The 3 men who were trailing Mrs. Ali and were captured outside the laundromat have been questioned and are on their way to Puerto Rico. And the contents of Amira's purse, phone, and person have been thoroughly examined. When True walked into the room where Amira was being held, she said, "So let me guess. You had no idea that you were being followed." Amira said, "By who? You?" True said, "No. By the men who were working with Amir." Amira said, "Of course I didn't." Then True showed Amira the video from the laundromat. Amira said, "What on earth is going on here?" True said, "It appears that Amir built in a safety net. By now the word is out that Amir is dead, and the people he was working with are cleaning up loose ends. You are a loose end." Amira said, "How do I know that you weren't behind those men trying to kill my mother today?" True said, "Because if I was, she'd be dead. And I certainly wouldn't have sent in more men to stop the first group of men." Amira said, "Where is my mother? Is she okay?" True said, "Your mother is with your brother, and they're both okay. Your brother is refusing to leave town without you." And then Amira just broke down. True said, "Why are you still pregnant?" Amira said, "How do you..." True said, "Answer the damn question." Amira said, "I'm too far along for the procedure. I'm a whole month further along than I thought I was." True said, "I see." Amira said, "You should be happy. That means that Wood is not the father." True said, "No, you should be happy that Wood is not the father. Are you any closer to knowing who the father is, though?" "Never mind. I don't give a damn. Why did you go this long without prenatal care?" Amira said, "I don't know. I was busy. I had a lot going on. But according to that doctor today, the baby is perfectly fine." True said, "Congratulations." Amira said, "True, I'm sorry." True said, "Don't be. There is absolutely nothing that you can say or do that is going to change your fate right now." Amira said, "I know. But if my baby and I are going to die, then I might as well say that envy is like poison. You spend as much of your life down as I have. It's so easy to get focused on what everybody else has. You become bitter because despite your best efforts, you just can't get up. No matter how much good you do, bad things still happen. When you throw all caution to the wind and just do whatever like everybody else, worse things happen. I wasn't always like this. I was the good girl. I was with the same boy from 14 to 22. And then he cheated on me with my best friend. And his brother, who happened to have liked me first, was the one who told me about it. It was like that Life Jennings song. He came to comfort me and I wound up pregnant." True chuckled and said, "And you couldn't say for sure whose the baby was?" Amira said, "Exactly. And then he had my back against the wall. If I didn't keep sleeping with him, he was going to tell his brother. The night that his brother caught us was a setup. He'd called his brother over. He wanted him to catch us. He had no idea that his brother was going to try to kill me. And he definitely didn't know that my brother was there. I was young, dumb, and it was a mess. And I didn't tell the stalking story to cover my tracks. I told it because I thought it would get my brother off or get him less time. And then I spent the next 15 years of my life trying to get my brother out, trying to make sure he had everything he needed. I was on that bus and that ferry every time I could. And when I wasn't, I was on the phone with lawyers, reading case law, becoming a paralegal. I thought Amir was a godsend. I had no idea what kind of man he really was. But I'm not blaming him for the decisions that I made. I've been choosing the wrong men my whole life. Men who were unavailable for one reason or another. I guess you could say I got daddy issues. And if you ask me, it comes with the territory. I was in the backseat of my father's car when a man blew his brains out. My whole life, my mother has believed that I was asleep in that car, but I wasn't. I was daddy's little girl. And as much as my mother loves me, and I know she does, she's always been more concerned with the afterlife than living this life. The only person I had after my father died was my brother Wise. When they took him away in handcuffs, I lost everything. My man, my baby, and my brother. And my life has never been the same since, True. I haven't been the same since. True said, "I know something about being invisible. I also know what it's like to lose the love of your life. And I know what it's like to lose your father. Well, I cannot empathize with your choices. And I am perfectly within my rights to blow your brains out right now. I got some issues of my own that I still haven't worked through. And one of them as putting the people who I love's needs ahead of my own. Salema needs Wise, and Wise needs Salema, and I will not be the reason why their brand new family falls apart. And then True walked out of the room. Amira breathed a sigh of relief. And then the door swung back open and True walked back in and said, I am not a forgiving person. I do not do second chances. You and I will never be friends. I don't ever want to lay eyes on you again. Don't ever speak my name. If you see me walking down the street, you better cross it. If you walking in the woods and you hear a branch fall off a tree, run. If you sneeze and the tone and tenor of it is off, I am going to be on your head and down your throat. I don't care if you're pregnant, holding a newborn, pushing a stroller, or smack dab in the middle of changing a diaper. I will detach your head from your body and not think twice about it. Do you understand? Amira said, yeah. Don't take my kindness for weakness. I am not a nice person. Your sob story didn't move me and pregnancy is not making me soft. I am letting you live for my sister. Now you better do everything in your power to make sure that your brother and my sister stay together. Because if they don't, all bets are off. Then True turned around and walked out the room again. And Amira held her breath this time because she didn't know if True was going to come back or not. And if she did, she could just change her mind. When the door opened again, it was a soldier holding her purse, her phone, and everything that she had in her pockets. He said, let's go. When Amira walked into the safe house, Waz and Mrs. Ali were so relieved. When Mrs. Ali asked her what happened, Waz said, we can get all caught up on the plane. On the plane, Amira told Waz and Mrs. Ali that she was still pregnant. And when Waz asked what happened when she left the clinic, she told him about the driver of the cab driving like Mario Andretti and her not realizing that it wasn't actually her special behind the wheel until the cab turned into the alley. She said, they drove me to a brownstone in East New York, walked me into a basement, took all my stuff, and just had me sit there. Waz asked, did they tie you up? Amira said, no. Waz asked, did they hurt you at all? Amira said, no, but they did threaten to. When Waz asked what happened, Amira said, True walked in. She already knew that I hadn't went through with it. She pointed a gun at my head and made me beg her for my life. And Waz's antenna went up. Amira said, I think the only reason that she didn't kill me is because I told her that I was further along than I am. So it couldn't be Wood's baby. But I don't need a test. I know for sure that this is his baby. Mrs. Ali said, how can you possibly know that? Amira said, because Marvin was gone for 2 weeks before I went to see Tough. The lockdown interrupted our visit. Wood and I were together all day the next day. And I didn't see Tough again for several weeks. And Marvin didn't come back from Jamaica for several weeks. Well, I said, and what about old boy's brother? Amira said, that was something sporadic that happened every now and again over the years. I hadn't seen him in months. And I was already pregnant when I saw him last week. Like I said, I decided not to go through with the procedure when they told me exactly how far along I am. And I saw my baby on that ultrasound. Nobody has to know who the father of this baby is. You promised that you would help me. Both of you promised to help me. Wood never has to know. He and True can live happily ever after. Well, I said, I'm not helping you keep that man from his baby. Amira said, then give me some money and I'll just go away. But this is not your business to tell. That man put a hit out on me and my baby. You went through all of this to save us. What's to stop him from changing his mind again? Let me have this baby and then offer me. What's to stop True from changing her mind? You didn't see the look in her eyes. I'm telling you, the only reason why she did not kill me is because she believed my story. I was in there begging for my life. She was drunk on the power. Wise knew in that moment that something was not right. He just didn't know what. He was going to get down to the bottom of things, though. But first, he needed to make sure that his mother and his sister were someplace safe. He didn't really know what he was going to do. If he had to leave New York with his mother and not his sister. But now that they were both safe, he knew that he was going to have to keep his two worlds separate. He told his mother and his sister, I'm going to get you set up at a hotel temporarily for now. Amira said, so we still can't stay at your guest house? Wouldn't that be safer, considering you were followed and mommy was almost shot? Well, I said, no, it wouldn't be. We need a more permanent solution that will meet everybody's needs. Mrs. Ali asked, everybody like who? Waz said, everybody like everybody else who lives in the neighborhood. Amir said, I don't understand. Waz said, let's just say it's a private community and leave it at that. Waz was not about to tell his mother and sister that the house that he and Salema owned wasn't just in some suburban neighborhood in Denton, Texas. It was in a family community, designed, built, and owned by members of the St. James and Baptiste families only. While they now knew that Salema and True were in the life, Waz suspected that Amira could not be trusted. And while he didn't want her or her unborn in harm's way, he was also not willing to risk the life and safety of his wife and unborn child and the entire St. James and Baptiste family. He was going to have to consult with his wife and with Q about how best to proceed and how best to meet everybody's needs. He was also going to have to decide whether he was going to be able to keep his sister's secret, and if so, for how long.